Ringo was an idol who performed under the stage name Yuka Kusakabe. That day, Ringo held a concert with an amazing performance. She sang to entertain all of her fans with incredible energy and talent. After finishing her song, she greeted everyone warmly. She thanked her fans for making her feel like the happiest person in the world. Her fans called Ringo the sweetest girl in the universe. Ringo felt deeply touched when she heard everyone cheering her name. At that moment, Ringo introduced someone in front of her fans. A young man walked onto the stage and approached her. Ringo said that he was the person who made her the happiest girl in the universe. The young man slowly leaned closer and gave Ringo a gentle kiss. Unexpectedly, the entire scene was only a dream. A boy named Kozaku suddenly woke up from his sleep and shouted that he loved Ringo. He could not believe that the beautiful moment with Ringo had only been a dream. Wakadana looked confused by Kozaku's strange behavior right after waking up. That wonderful dream caused Kozaku to arrive late at the agricultural school. Minori was confused by his behavior. At the time, Kozaku was picking leaves together with Minori and Kei. Minori asked why Kozaku wanted so badly to go to Tokyo, and she wondered what he wanted to do there. With great confidence, Kozaku proudly declared that he wanted to become a trendy farmer. Minori laughed at his dream. According to her, a village boy like Kozaku was better suited to marrying a country girl and spending his entire life as a farmer. Kozaku immediately rejected that idea because he wanted to become a trendy farmer together with the idol Yuka. Kozaku dreamed about planting rice in Harajuku and raising cows in Roppongi. According to him, the only country girl around his age was Minori herself. Hearing that comment made Minori blush. Kei firmly told both of them to stop fooling around and get back to work. Kozaku apologized while Minori became annoyed because Kei had scolded her because of him. Kozaku felt irritated after hearing that. Suddenly, someone shouted that a cow had escaped from the barn. A loud commotion broke out around the livestock area. Kozaku wondered why another animal had escaped again. Before this, a peacock and even a goat had also escaped. Minori told everyone picking leaves to continue working, but the cow suddenly ran toward the fields. Kei told everyone to stop the cow before it entered their garden area. Kakizaki quickly stepped forward to block the animal. He had once participated in a national wrestling tournament, so everyone believed he could stop the cow. Unfortunately, Kakizaki was thrown far away, and the cow seemed to possess monstrous strength. Kozaku asked Kei what they should do next. Suddenly, Minori took off her red shirt and handed it to Kozaku, telling him to run while waving it around. Minori's face turned bright red with embarrassment before she quickly ran away. The cow became interested in the red cloth in Kozaku's hand and immediately chased after him. Kozaku ran with all his strength while desperately avoiding the cow. Later in class, Kozaku still looked exhausted. He said that being chased by the cow had been terrifying. He held Wakadana in his arms and claimed that only Wakadana had been worried about him. That day, Kei brought up the career survey assignment. Kozaku asked whether Kei planned to attend college. Kei said he was still thinking about it, though he was likely going to apply to an agricultural university. Kozaku felt jealous of Kei. He explained that he only enrolled in the school because his parents were farmers and he had simply followed that path. Hearing that surprised Minori, and she asked whether Kozaku had actually been serious about his dream of becoming a trendy farmer. Kozaku answered that his real goal was Furufushi High School itself. Kei commented that it was probably the first time he had ever seen a high school student write high school as a future career path. Minori called Kozaku an idiot. Kozaku became confused when Kei and Minori stared at him strangely. Kei then asked whether Kozaku truly liked the idol Yuka that much. He wondered what was so special about her. Kozaku passionately explained that his idol had beautiful round eyes, small lips like a cute duck, cheeks as red as apples, a lovely feminine voice, beautiful hair, and adorable eyebrows. Kei told Kozaku to stop talking about it, but Kozaku continued saying that her smile looked incredibly sincere. Hearing all of that made Minori annoyed, and she kicked him. She told Kozaku to seriously think about his career survey instead. Kozaku then asked whether Minori had already finished filling out hers. He wondered whether she planned to work or continue studying in college. Embarrassed, Minori quietly admitted that she wanted to work in an office someday. Kozaku quickly grabbed Minori's survey sheet and read her answers out loud. Her dream was to become a bride, a wife, and a homemaker. Kozaku and Kei immediately laughed at her answer. Kozaku called Minori foolish. However, Minori argued that she was not foolish at all because being a homemaker was still an important full-time job. Not long after that, a girl named Kacho came over to scold Kozaku and the others for being so loud. She even called them a bunch of country bumpkins. Minori and Kozaku responded by teasing Kacho with a nickname that annoyed her right away. Feeling irritated, Kacho walked into the classroom while bringing along her beloved cow. She called everyone their noisy country kids who could not stop causing trouble. Kacho could not understand how they were all from Class 2A in the production department. Yet Kozaku and the others were in the farming division, which she considered the weaker side of production. Meanwhile, Kacho was an honor student in the livestock division. Because of that, she believed their status was completely different. Kacho complained that Kozaku and the others always caused a scene without paying attention to the people around them, and she criticized their behavior as thoughtless. Minori refused to stay quiet and pointed out that bringing a cow into the classroom was not exactly a smart thing to do either. Kacho immediately argued that Agehago was no ordinary cow. According to her, Agehago was a prestigious premium beef cow with the highest ranking and an incredibly bright future ahead. Kozaku casually commented that the cow probably cost around $20 per 100 grams of meat. Kacho then proudly revealed that Agehago's actual value was worth millions of yen. The moment Kozaku heard that number, he quickly stepped aside to give the cow plenty of room. Minori could not believe how fast Kozaku switched sides and wondered who he was really supporting. She grabbed Kozaku firmly by the collar, making him apologize to her over and over again. Kacho suddenly became nervous when Kei called out to her. Kei explained that cows were gentle animals and were usually sensitive to fear and panic around people. In his opinion, bringing a cow into such a loud and chaotic classroom was not a good idea. Kacho responded by saying that Kei was just as foolish as everyone else. Kei looked genuinely surprised after hearing that from her. Kacho then explained that she had realized earlier that morning that Agehago's mentality was still immature. That was exactly why she brought the cow to class for training. Kei admitted that when it came to livestock knowledge and passion, he probably could not compare to Kacho at all. Hearing such honest praise immediately made Kacho blush and panic. She quickly told Kei to stop talking to her like that. Trying to hide her embarrassment, Kacho laughed and called Kei a country boy. A moment later, their teacher walked into the classroom and greeted everyone cheerfully. Her name was Natsumi and she looked incredibly excited to enter Class 2A. She openly said how happy she was and greeted all the students with a huge smile on her face. Not long after that, Minori suddenly called out to Ms. Natsumi. Acting playful as usual, Natsumi asked whether she still looked attractive even though she was already in her 40s. Minori then informed her that Kacho had brought a cow into the classroom. Ms. Natsumi asked Kacho for an explanation. Kacho explained that she was taking care of the cow because Mr. Mutsu from the ranch had gotten into an accident earlier that morning. Even so, Ms. Natsumi allowed Kacho to keep the cow there as long as she was confident she could handle it properly. Minori immediately protested. She argued that if Kacho was allowed to bring a cow into class, then she should also be allowed to bring a bunch of plants into the classroom to take care of them. The students from the farming division agreed with her and complained that the livestock division wasted too much of the school budget. Meanwhile, the livestock students fired back by saying that the farming students were always eating fruits and vegetables under the excuse of taste testing. Hearing the argument getting louder and louder, Ms. Natsumi begged everyone to stop fighting because she wanted all of them to get along as friends. Minori still refused to accept that idea because she thought the whole situation was ridiculous. The students kept arguing anyway. While talking about strange things, Ms. Natsumi suddenly remembered something that happened the day before. She shared a story about going to a family restaurant and ordering a bottle of wine. She said she ordered 2 glasses and told the waiter that one of them was for her boyfriend. She even made a toast and said the wine tasted great, although the whole moment felt a little awkward because she did not actually have a boyfriend at all. The classroom stayed completely silent after hearing her story, and none of the students reacted. After that awkward moment passed, Ms. Natsumi finally started the lesson. After school, while relaxing at the dormitory, Kozaku ate lunch together with Minori and Kei. He enjoyed the food so much that he even asked for another serving. Kozaku looked completely satisfied with the meal. Afterward, Kei turned on the television while Kozaku lay down and started wondering why humans cared so much about flavor when calories alone should technically be enough. He questioned why God created people that way. For a moment, Kozaku even wondered whether God actually existed at all. Still, deep down, he convinced himself that God must be real because God had given the world the idol Yuka. To Kozaku, Yuka was basically a goddess herself. Suddenly, Minori called out to Kozaku and told him to watch the television because there was major news being reported. The TV program then revealed shocking news that idol Yuka had officially announced her retirement. Kozaku was left completely stunned after hearing it. Many people could not believe Yuka's sudden decision to retire, and even at that moment, Kozaku still could not accept the reality of it. One day, the idol Yuka walked past a crowd of people, yet no one recognized her. That morning, Minori and Kei knocked on Kozaku's door to wake him up. Since Kozaku refused to come out, Minori asked Kei for the spare key. As soon as they entered the room, Minori was shocked to see Kozaku rolling around on the floor while hugging his body pillow. She could not understand what he was doing. Kozaku claimed that he had become one with the idol Yuka. Kei assumed that Kozaku was trying to cope with his shock by acting like Yuka herself. Minori scolded him and reminded him that he would fail if he kept skipping class. On top of that, he would never become a trendy farmer. Kozaku explained that the reason he grew vegetables was so he could send them to idol Yuka. Meanwhile, Yuka had just stepped off a train and was heading somewhere. Kozaku proudly explained that he had been sending the vegetables he harvested during class to Yuka. He mentioned sending her a large, shiny eggplant. Kei immediately called him a creepy stalker, while Minori thought he had completely lost his mind. Kosaku defended himself by saying that Yuka lived in Tokyo, where fresh vegetables were hard to find. Kei understood Kosaku's feelings and asked what else he had sent. Kosaku casually replied that he had also sent fresh, bumpy cucumbers. Hearing that, Kei became even more disturbed and threatened to report him to the police. Kei quickly told Minori they should leave before the police considered them suspects too. Kosaku continued explaining that there were still many things he wanted to send to his idol, including sweet corn, bitter melon, and mushrooms. Minori asked if he was doing all of this on purpose. Kosaku looked confused and wondered what was wrong with sending eggplants to his favorite idol. According to Minori, secretly sending things to a young girl was inappropriate. Embarrassed, Minori explained that eggplants and cucumbers could give people the wrong impression because of their shape. Kosaku still could not understand why people thought they looked inappropriate, and he kept asking Minori to explain it clearly. Unable to say it out loud, Minori became furious and smacked him in frustration. Kei was convinced that Kosaku knew exactly what he was doing. Minori then asked whether Kosaku had ever received a reply. Kosaku denied it because he had never written his name on the packages. Minori said she did not care whether Idol Yuka retired or not. What mattered was that Kosaku needed to attend class because it was his responsibility. Kosaku still refused and crawled back into his Yuka body pillow, praising Yuka for being kind, beautiful, adorable, and pure. Irritated, Minori muttered that maybe Yuka was not as perfect as he imagined. Hearing that immediately angered Kosaku, and he tried to charge at Minori. However, Minori effortlessly stopped him with a kick that left him writhing on the floor. She warned him that refusing to attend class would only cause trouble for everyone else. She even threatened to make the livestock staff deal with him if he kept acting up. At the same time, Yuka stepped out of a taxi and arrived at Tamo Agriculture High School. Pulling her suitcase behind her, she quietly walked through the campus grounds and past the fields. Nearby, Kosaku, Kei, and Minori were also there, while Kosaku continued sulking and refusing to work. That morning, Natsumi-sensei entered Class 2A of the production department. She excitedly announced that she had recently tried an extremely expensive essential oil treatment that supposedly made her skin smooth. She dramatically claimed that she had even poured cooking oil all over herself in hopes of getting baby-soft skin. She proudly posed for photos afterward, but seeing herself covered in oil in the mirror only made her regret her choices. None of the students reacted to Natsumi-sensei's story. She then announced that their school had a new transfer student, and according to her, the girl was unbelievably beautiful. The new student stepped into the classroom, instantly leaving everyone speechless. Even Kosaku admitted that she was far too beautiful to look like an ordinary high school girl. She looked sweet, adorable, and innocent. The girl introduced herself to the class, and her name was Ringo. Kosaku, Kei, and Minori met with their teacher, Natsumi, in her office and asked whether the new student, Ringo, was actually the idol Yuka. Natsumi answered that the answer was both yes and no. Meanwhile, the students in Class 2A of the Production Science Department were also asking Ringo whether she was the idol Yuka, but she denied it. She even avoided giving a clear reason when they asked why she had transferred to an agricultural high school. At that moment, Natsumi explained to Kosaku, Kei, and Minori that Ringo really was the idol Yuka, but she wanted to leave that identity behind and live as an ordinary student. Kei asked if that meant they were not allowed to reveal her past. Natsumi then asked the three of them to help Ringo adjust to school life and study. They were all surprised by the request. Minori wondered why it had to be the three of them. Natsumi explained that Ringo would be staying with them in the dormitory, and they were also in the same class. Hearing that, Kosaku realized it meant he would be spending both school life and dorm life together with his idol. His imagination immediately ran wild as he pictured spending every day with Ringo, sharing meals, hanging out together, and enjoying life side by side. Kosaku became so overwhelmed with happiness that he nearly lost control of himself. To him, it felt like he was living in heaven. That day, Kosaku introduced himself to Ringo. He also introduced his pet named Wakadana, which meant young master in Japanese. Kei wondered why Kosaku had suddenly started speaking in such formal language. According to Minori, it looked like Kosaku was trying to sound smart and sophisticated. Kosaku then guided Ringo around the school, showing her the main building, the sports area, the industrial promotion building, and the green shop where harvested products were sold. Throughout the tour, Ringo remained distant and expressionless. Before long, Ringo heard the sound of an animal. She thought it was a cat, but Kosaku explained that it was actually a peacock. Ringo looked at the peacocks inside their enclosure and commented that they seemed bored being trapped in cages. Kosaku enthusiastically gave a long explanation about peacocks, but Ringo stayed silent the whole time, making him wonder if she was getting bored. After that, they headed to the Wallaby house, where Wakadana lived. The enclosure was equipped with a special carpet and air conditioning, making it look far more luxurious than their dormitory rooms. Ringo asked whether a wallaby was a kangaroo. Kosaku explained that wallabies and kangaroos belonged to the same family. Kosaku admitted that Wakadana did not really like him at first. However, during the previous winter on Christmas Eve, Wakadana had escaped and ended up collapsed from the cold after getting lost. Kosaku found him and immediately carried him back to his warm room. From that day on, Wakadana would always come visit him whenever he seemed lonely. Ringo quietly listened to the story, making the atmosphere feel even more awkward. Kosaku quickly decided to take her somewhere else. They eventually arrived at the livestock barn. Kacho proudly showed them some Jidori chicken meat. She explained that Jidori usually referred to famous chicken breeds such as Henai, Nagoya Cochin, and Satsuma, but she personally raised her own special Jidori using Okumino Kojidori chickens. Kei accepted the meat and thanked Kacho for it. Hearing his gratitude immediately made Kacho nervous and flustered, causing her to speak awkwardly. Ringo commented that Kacho seemed strange, but Kacho quickly denied it and insisted that she did not care about Kei at all. Kosaku then asked whether Kacho still had any eggs available. He also asked whether fertilized eggs were more nutritious than unfertilized ones. Kacho immediately called Kosaku an idiot for asking such a question. According to her, there was no real difference in nutrition, although eggs from free-range chickens definitely tasted better than eggs from caged chickens. At that moment, Ringo gently tugged on Kosaku's sleeve and asked what an unfertilized egg actually was. She admitted that she did not understand what everyone was talking about. Kosaku was caught off guard by how innocent and adorable Ringo looked at that moment. He nervously asked Kacho how he was supposed to answer her question. Kacho told him to explain it himself, but Kosaku became extremely cautious because he saw Ringo as an innocent girl and did not want to confuse her. Kacho was surprised that Ringo had apparently never heard about fertilization before, so she decided to explain it herself. However, Kacho's explanation ended up being completely confusing and inappropriate, leaving Kosaku speechless at how badly she had explained it. After that, they went to see Ms. Natsumi to ask about the topic. Ms. Natsumi explained the story of Akadama, a legend about a man becoming dangerous if he went too far. Kosaku was shocked by the explanation. He tried to stop her because he thought the discussion was too inappropriate for an innocent girl like Ringo. Ms. Natsumi explained that she was only teaching them about reproduction. After hearing that, Kosaku admitted that Ms. Natsumi's lesson was actually very educational and useful. Later at the dormitory, Kosaku gave a welcome speech for Ringo's arrival at their school. They all had dinner together. Minori prepared a variety of dishes, but Ringo said that she was not used to eating large meals. Minori quietly whispered to Kosaku that Ringo seemed very cold and distant. Kosaku believed that Ringo was probably just nervous and naturally shy. Minori, however, thought that Ringo would have trouble making friends if she stayed that way, especially since teamwork was very important there. She suggested that Kosaku help Ringo feel more comfortable living in the dormitory. Kei then tried to lighten the mood by joking around in front of Ringo, but she still reacted coldly. When Kei attempted one of his ridiculous comedy routines, Kosaku immediately kicked him away before things got out of hand. After that, Kosaku invited everyone to play a game and asked Ringo if she knew any games they could all enjoy together. Ringo suggested playing the King's Game. In the first round, Ringo became the king. Kei secretly signaled that he had number 1, while Minori showed a sign for number 3. Kosaku assumed that meant Ringo had number 2. He then ordered number 2 to feed the king. Suddenly, Minori revealed that she was actually number 2. Kosaku was confused about how that was possible, but it turned out Minori's signal meant that Ringo had number 3 instead. Kei told them to continue the game anyway. Minori reluctantly fed Kosaku while Kei busily took pictures, making Minori feel embarrassed. Unexpectedly, Ringo snapped her stick into several pieces. In the next round, Kosaku became the king. Kei signaled number 2 while Minori signaled number 3. Seeing those signals, Kosaku quickly ordered number 3 to step in front of the king barefoot. To his surprise, Minori turned out to be number 3. Kosaku became frustrated, wondering why Minori had to be the one with that number. It turned out she had only been signaling her own number the entire time. Kosaku insisted that Minori follow the order anyway. Minori asked if he was really sure about it. She then pressed her foot against Kosaku's face while Kei enthusiastically recorded the moment. Minori called Kosaku a total pervert. Kei commented that any guy would probably panic in that situation. Kosaku was shocked when he noticed Ringo snapping her stick apart again. In the following turn, Ringo became the king once more. This time, nobody gave any hints about their numbers. She directly asked Kosaku what number he had. Left with no choice, Kosaku admitted that he was number 1. Ringo then ordered number 1 to call her by her first name from that moment on. After saying that, she smiled warmly at him. The next morning, Kosaku dreamed that he woke up resting on Ringo's lap. The dream startled him so much that he immediately fell out of bed. He later went downstairs and met Wakadana. Since it was Sunday, he could spend the whole day relaxing and playing with Wakadana. He even talked about his dream involving his idol Yuka appearing at school as Ringo. At that moment, Kozaku noticed Ringo standing in front of the washing machine. She wanted to do her laundry, but she looked completely confused. Kozaku was shocked to learn that Ringo had previously washed her clothes in a river. He joked that usually only Momotaro's mother washed clothes in the river like that. Kozaku firmly told Ringo that she should stop washing clothes in the river and use the washing machine instead. He carefully explained each step to her. He told Ringo to separate the clothes based on whether the colors might bleed and also by fabric type. Ringo then took out her laundry, which included her undergarments. Kozaku became flustered and wondered if Ringo was not embarrassed showing them to him since he was a guy. It seemed that Ringo did not really understand that kind of situation. She innocently asked where she should put them. Kozaku nearly panicked when he saw the undergarments right in front of him. He explained that delicate clothing like that should usually be washed by hand because the material was sensitive. Ringo admitted that she had never known that before. Kozaku realized that Ringo probably was not used to washing delicate clothes by hand, so he offered to help her with it. His face turned bright red as he nervously reached toward the laundry. Suddenly, Minori punched him right in the face. She accused Kozaku of acting suspiciously by trying to handle a girl's personal clothing. Ringo immediately defended him, explaining that she had been the one who asked for help. However, Minori remained convinced that Kozaku had tricked Ringo somehow. She claimed that she already understood Kozaku's personality well, while Ringo had only known him for a day or two. Hearing that made Ringo visibly upset, and she shot an angry glare toward Minori. Ringo stepped in to calm them down, wondering why the two of them were glaring at each other so intensely. Kozaku asked Minori to give back Ringo's underwear because the longer she held it, the dirtier it would get. Minori could not understand why Kozaku acted as if her hands were dirty. According to Kozaku, underwear was something pure and special, so it should not be treated carelessly. Minori was shocked that Kozaku seemed so obsessed with women's underwear. Kozaku told Minori to hand it over immediately. Unexpectedly, Minori gave him her own underwear instead. Kozaku accepted it, then immediately tossed it into the trash. He called Minori a liar and firmly stated that he only wanted the white underwear. The three of them started scrambling over the white underwear. Out of nowhere, Kei suddenly appeared and grabbed it. He explained that he had already heard about the white underwear and said that he would handle the situation properly. Kozaku and the others had no idea what Kei meant by that. At that moment, Kei showed them several different kinds of underwear and told Kozaku and Minori to pick one. According to him, their choice would reveal how much they understood about underwear. Minori chose a ribbon-style pair that she thought looked simple and cute. Ringo agreed that it looked adorable, and Minori became convinced that Kozaku would definitely like that kind of design. However, Ringo quietly whispered that the style was actually not that great, though Minori still stuck with her choice. Kozaku smiled and said that Minori did not really understand underwear at all. He explained that he would never choose any of the pairs in front of him because they were all brand new and had never been worn before. Hearing that made both Minori and Ringo blush in embarrassment. Kozaku continued by saying that many guys were interested in the mystery and imagination surrounding personal items, while brand new underwear felt far less meaningful to him. Kei added that used items usually lost their value, but underwear was different. According to him, the value did not come from the item itself, but from the meaning attached to the person who wore it. Hearing that, Kozaku and Kei shook hands in agreement. Kei then handed Ringo's underwear to Kozaku, saying that only Kozaku deserved to receive it. Minori looked annoyed while Kozaku became overly excited and brought it close to his face. Suddenly, Ringo looked furious. Kei then revealed that Kozaku had been fooled because the underwear did not belong to Ringo at all, but to Kei. Kei wondered why Kozaku had been so certain it belonged to Ringo when he himself had kept it tucked under his arm to keep it warm. After hearing that, Kozaku was horrified to realize that what he had smelled earlier was actually Kei's sweat. He broke down in despair, unable to believe something so awful had happened to him. Kozaku could not believe that Kei had tricked him like that, and tears formed in his eyes from pure disappointment. Kei explained that the value of underwear did not simply increase because of who wore it. Kozaku then asked what kind of value Kei was actually talking about. Kei answered that the true value came from the hidden meaning and imagination connected to it. Minori became even more confused by the entire conversation. Kei continued by saying that underwear was something usually hidden from sight, and that mystery was what sparked people's imagination. According to him, underwear only had meaning because it stayed unseen and rarely exposed. If it was always visible, then it would lose that special sense entirely. After that, Kozaku apologized to Minori for calling her underwear dirty. Minori also apologized because she felt that she did not understand what Kozaku and Kei were talking about. Seeing Kozaku and Minori getting along again, Kei decided to take Ringo's underwear back. Kozaku protested that it was unfair, but Kei smacked him lightly and told him that Kozaku already had his own special feelings in his heart. Those words deeply moved Kozaku. He realized that everyone carried their own personal feelings and attachments inside their hearts. Right after that, Kozaku suddenly suggested holding an underwear festival during spring. Surprisingly, Kei and Minori immediately agreed with the idea. Hearing such nonsense, Ringo called all of them idiots. She quickly grabbed her underwear and stormed off. And just like that, the underwear festival came to an end in only 5 seconds. That afternoon, Kozaku came back to the dorm exhausted after work, along with Wakadana. The moment he opened his dorm room door, he was completely shocked. His entire collection of idol yuka posters and merchandise had disappeared. All that was left was a small note saying that Kozaku's mother had burned everything. Kozaku immediately confronted Minori about it. Minori admitted that she had burned all of the items, insisting that she did it for Kozaku's own good because she did not want Ringo to feel uncomfortable seeing his massive collection. She also explained that Kozaku's mother had asked her to keep an eye on him, so she felt responsible for him. Minori believed that Ringo had transferred to their school carrying ideals from city life, gardening fantasies, and unrealistic expectations in her head. The next day, Minori planned to test her during farming practice. At that moment, Kozaku never imagined that his childhood friend and the idol of his dreams would end up clashing under the same roof. The next morning, Ringo was changing into her work outfit while Minori and Kozaku waited outside. Minori was surprised that Ringo had not run away yet. Kozaku assumed that Ringo probably thought the farming practice would be like an ordinary school activity. At the same time, Kozaku was confused about why Kei was busy welding nearby. After Ringo changed into the outfit Minori had prepared, Kozaku was stunned by how revealing it looked. He asked why Ringo was not wearing a normal work uniform. Minori claimed that she had given her the outfit by accident, but Kozaku did not believe her at all. In his opinion, the outfit was far too inappropriate for farm work. Minori denied trying to embarrass Ringo and insisted that it was simply a test to see whether she could handle it. Kozaku called Minori crazy for giving a bikini-style outfit to someone who was supposed to be farming. Minori argued that if the outfit was really such a problem, then she would wear one herself. She immediately changed into a similarly revealing outfit and proudly referred to it as her leotard-style workwear. Kozaku panicked at the sight of the two girls standing in front of him in such flashy outfits. He tried desperately to calm himself down. Ringo casually pointed out that Kozaku looked suspiciously distracted, which embarrassed him even more. Minori then told Ringo that she could stop if she felt uncomfortable wearing the outfit. Not long after that, Kei arrived wearing a full suit of armor. Kozaku stared at him in confusion and asked what happened to his welding class. Kei admitted that he skipped it because he wanted to see what was going on there. The four of them then headed to the cucumber greenhouse. As soon as they arrived, Ringo and Minori's unusual outfits immediately attracted attention from the other students. Minori explained that their task was to inspect the leaves carefully, making sure the plants were healthy and free from pests. Both Minori and Ringo prepared themselves for the challenge while Kozaku gave the signal to begin their competition. The moment the signal was given, the two girls rushed toward the rows of cucumber plants. Kozaku could not believe they were inspecting cucumber leaves while dressed like that. Kei commented that Minori's method was honestly too harsh. Cucumbers were considered beginner-friendly crops because they grew easily, but the plants were covered in tiny prickly hairs that could irritate exposed skin. Kozaku finally understood why Minori had forced Ringo to wear that strange armored bikini outfit. According to Kei, a city girl like Ringo would definitely struggle with this kind of work. Minori worked quickly, and the students watching were convinced that she would win the competition. Kozaku asked Kei whether the winner had already been decided, but Kei felt that Minori was not actually trying to win. Both Kozaku and Kei realized that Minori's real goal was to test whether Ringo could handle the creepy creatures hiding among the leaves. Before long, Ringo discovered a caterpillar on one of the plants. Minori had clearly been waiting for that exact moment. Kozaku immediately became worried for Ringo. Minori was certain that Ringo would scream, cry, and decide to run back to Tokyo after seeing it. Unexpectedly, Ringo calmly picked up the caterpillar with her bare hands. Everyone watching was shocked by her bravery. She even started collecting more caterpillars in her hands without hesitation. Kei suddenly realized that Ringo was so pure-hearted that she did not even see caterpillars as disgusting creatures. Not long after that, Ringo began working even faster. Minori refused to lose and immediately sped up as well. The two competed fiercely as they cleared row after row of leaves before sprinting toward the finish line together. In the end, they crossed the finish line at exactly the same time. Ringo then held out the caterpillars in front of Minori, completely shocking her. Calmly, Ringo simply asked for a trash bag so she could dispose of them properly. In the end, Minori declared that the competition had ended in a draw. Next, they headed to the chicken coop. Kei explained that in the agriculture class, cleaning the coop was one of the 2 practical assignments for first-year students. Kozaku said that the first challenge of cleaning a chicken coop was dealing with the smell. The moment Ringo opened the coop, a powerful odor spread everywhere. Kei explained that chickens prefer dark places, so they were raised in enclosed spaces. In other words, the room trapped all the smell, heat, and humidity inside. Minori explained that the mission in the competition was to clean the chicken coop using only a broom. They had to remove every bit of dirt, feathers, and leftover feed from every inch of the place. Minori even told Ringo that she could just go back to Tokyo if she could not handle it. She laughed confidently, convinced that Ringo would definitely give up and return to Tokyo. Unexpectedly, Ringo immediately started sweeping the coop without hesitation. The students realized that Ringo seemed to be adapting to the environment surprisingly well. Kosaku mentioned that the smell was the first obstacle, while Kei thought people could eventually get used to the odor and temperature over time. Minori then wondered whether Ringo could handle the feed storage room. Ringo quickly opened the storage door, and thousands of cockroaches scattered out from inside. Kosaku and Kei even grabbed onto each other in shock after seeing that many cockroaches at once. Minori laughed again, certain that Ringo would never be able to handle the swarm of insects. She even offered to help if Ringo could not do it herself. To everyone's surprise, Ringo calmly stepped on the cockroaches without panicking at all. The students watching were completely stunned. Even Minori could not believe that Ringo was not afraid of cockroaches. In the end, Ringo finished the task with ease. Kei then declared Ringo the winner. Minori refused to accept the result and insisted that the competition was not over yet. Kosaku suggested that Minori should just give up already. However, Minori challenged Ringo to one final contest involving an important activity in the rice fields. Since Japanese people had been eating rice since the Yayoi era, Minori believed they should understand rice planting properly. Ringo accepted the challenge right away. Kosaku let out a sigh and announced that the competition would take place on Saturday. He reminded both Ringo and Minori to wear clothes that would not soak easily because they were definitely going to get wet. The day of the competition finally arrived, and they headed to a rice field that was around 100 square meters wide. According to Kei, it usually took 4 people half a day to finish the work there. Minori confidently claimed that she could handle it with pure determination. Kosaku had already warned everyone to wear clothes suitable for getting wet, but he was still shocked by what they actually showed up wearing. Ringo asked whether she had chosen the wrong outfit. Kosaku assured her that she looked cute, so her outfit was fine. What really bothered him was Kei's outfit instead. Kei casually explained that the clothes were popular where he worked. Kosaku kept rambling while criticizing the strange outfit. Kei then proudly revealed that he had bought it at Geisenman. Unexpectedly, the others praised Kei for having the confidence to wear something so unusual, and they even admired him for it. Kosaku felt that Kei's outfit was way too flashy, especially in front of girls. Things became even more unbelievable when he saw teacher Natsumi wearing a wedding dress costume. Natsumi playfully teased Kosaku and joked around in an overly dramatic way, making him extremely uncomfortable. Kosaku immediately told her to go home because her comments were far too much for him to handle. However, Natsumi kept teasing him non-stop and even joked about spending the night together. Kosaku could not understand why she acted that way at all. Minori became disgusted by Natsumi's behavior and quickly stopped her before things went any further. According to Minori, Natsumi's actions had clearly crossed the line. Kosaku thanked Minori for helping him out. Minori admitted that she was willing to do anything for Kosaku. Kosaku then asked Minori what kind of outfit she was wearing. Minori explained that it was a bloomer outfit. Kosaku wondered why she was wearing bloomers when their school only allowed mid-thigh skirts. Minori explained that she had received special permission from home just for that day. Kei commented that it had become rare to see anyone wearing bloomers anymore. Minori added that the bloomers actually belonged to her older sister. Kosaku honestly could not understand why Minori went as far as wearing sporty outfits like swimsuits, bloomers, and leotards. He commented that outfits like that could easily attract attention from boys. Minori immediately fired back, saying that Kosaku was the one acting inappropriate for paying so much attention to her outfit in the first place. Kosaku defended himself by saying that he had only noticed the bloomers. Without warning, Ringo opened her jacket and revealed that she was only wearing an old-style school swimsuit underneath. The students around her were completely stunned. Kei noticed that the swimsuit Ringo wore was a classic design from years ago. Back in its day, that style had been extremely popular because it allowed people to move freely and felt comfortable in the water. Kosaku admitted that he liked girls with a simple and natural style. Hearing that, Ringo quickly told him to stop staring at her. Kosaku immediately looked away and said that he could barely handle how cute the swimsuit looked on her. Ringo became embarrassed after hearing that and called Kosaku an idiot. Kosaku apologized and promised not to keep looking at her anymore. Minori grew irritated and stepped closer to Ringo. The two girls faced each other with tense expressions while trying to hold back their emotions. Kosaku asked them to calm down because everyone was watching. After that, he suggested that they finally begin the rice planting competition, and both Minori and Ringo agreed. As they prepared to start, Ringo looked surprised the moment her feet sank into the muddy rice field. Kosaku explained that the mud sticking to her legs was something people eventually got used to, and that farming could even become enjoyable once someone adapted to it. He then demonstrated the proper way to plant rice seedlings. Seeing his technique, Ringo praised Kosaku and said he was impressive. Kei also complimented Kozaku, saying his planting skills were even better than a teacher's. Kozaku proudly replied that people in his village often called him the Mud Man. Suddenly, Minori reminded everyone that she and Ringo were supposed to be competing, so Ringo should not receive too much help. Kei argued that it would not be fair because Minori had far more experience than Ringo, so allowing Ringo to learn only the basics should be acceptable. Minori finally agreed and asked Kozaku to teach her quickly. Kozaku then encouraged Ringo to try planting on her own. Ringo carefully placed the rice seedlings into the water, but Kozaku advised her to push them deeper into the mud. Ringo still seemed to struggle a little with the technique. Minori impatiently told them to hurry up and start the match before teacher Natsumi became even more exhausted waiting for them. Kei suggested that Kozaku guide Ringo directly by helping her movements from beside her. The idea instantly made Kozaku imagine himself standing very close to Ringo while teaching her step by step. Minori clearly disliked the thought after imagining it herself. Kei pointed out that Minori would probably not feel satisfied competing against a complete beginner who had no guidance at all. He then asked Ringo whether she minded receiving help from Kozaku. Ringo calmly answered that she had no problem with it. Kozaku looked shocked and asked if she really trusted him that much. Once he realized Ringo truly agreed, he became excited and quickly moved closer to help her. His heart started pounding nervously the moment he reached for her hand. However, just as he touched her, Minori intentionally interrupted them and demanded that Kozaku teach her how to walk properly in the muddy field instead. Unfortunately for her, Kozaku immediately refused. The competition was finally about to begin. Because Ringo was still a beginner, teacher Natsumi decided to give her a slight handicap at the start. Kei took the role of announcer, Kozaku became the commentator, and Natsumi acted as the referee. The moment the signal was given, both girls immediately began planting rice. Minori moved incredibly fast, rapidly closing the gap between them, while Ringo worked carefully and with full concentration. Kozaku noticed that Minori had amazing stamina and suspected that she was intentionally trying to pressure Ringo. Even so, the rows planted by Ringo were perfectly straight, showing how focused and determined she was. The students watched the competition with great excitement as the two girls continued side by side through the muddy field. When they reached the same position, Minori declared that she would no longer treat Ringo like an ordinary student from the school. Right after saying that, Minori sped up even more. Suddenly, Ringo's foot became stuck in the mud. She lost her balance and accidentally crashed into Minori. Ringo quickly apologized and explained that it had only been an accident, but Minori refused to let it slide. She immediately pushed Ringo down into the mud. Ringo became annoyed and mocked Minori in return, causing Minori to get even angrier. Before long, the two of them started arguing and splashing each other around in the muddy field. Kei and Kozaku were shocked that things had escalated so badly. They warned the girls not to damage the rice plants, but the chaos only grew worse. During the commotion, both Kei and Kozaku ended up getting caught in the crossfire and were sent flying backward into the mud themselves. The fight became so wild that even the nearby students were dragged into the muddy mess. After everything finally settled down, both Minori and Ringo seemed surprisingly satisfied. In the end, the intense competition unexpectedly became the beginning of a friendship between them. Ringo's arrival at the agricultural school brought many new experiences into Kozaku's life. One morning, while Ringo was washing her face in the bathroom, Kozaku was, as usual, chasing Wakadana after he left his room. At that moment, Kozaku caught sight of Ringo freshening up. To him, seeing Ringo living in the dormitory still felt like an unexpected discovery, and it left him fascinated. One day, the agriculture students were shocked to find their garden in complete disarray. It looked as though something had caused chaos throughout the area. Some of them had already expected something like this to happen, considering the garden had no real security measures in place. Kei asked whether anyone had witnessed what happened. Suddenly, Kacho stated that she was fairly certain that children were responsible. She claimed that she had seen several children wearing gray coats and running away while carrying vegetables. Kozaku asked when she had seen them. Kacho explained that she had spotted the children shortly after checking on the cows and heading home, sometime after 8 o'clock in the evening. She also pointed out bite marks on a cucumber that had apparently been dropped by the culprit. In Kacho's opinion, Kei should investigate the reason behind the incident. Some students even wondered whether the children might have been hungry. As Minori walked around examining the crops, she suggested that monkeys were the more likely culprits. Kozaku agreed with her theory. Kacho pointed out that the culprit had been moving on 2 legs. Minori responded that monkeys could also walk on 2 legs over short distances. Kozaku added that monkeys could even run while carrying watermelons. Kacho asked whether they had ever actually seen something like that. Kozaku shyly explained that he and Minori came from a farming village where encounters with animals were common. Their village even had dogs, monkeys, and pheasants. Kacho was surprised to hear that. The students gradually dispersed, relieved that the incident probably was not related to hungry children. Meanwhile, Kozaku quietly told Minori that he would think about a strategy for dealing with the situation later. Later in class, Kei led a meeting to discuss what they should do about the monkeys disturbing their garden. He asked everyone to take turns sharing their ideas. Minori suggested using electric fencing around the garden. Ringo wondered whether that would hurt the monkeys. Kozaku explained that the fence would not be lethal. Kacho agreed with the idea. Kei acknowledged that it was a reasonable plan, but the school did not have enough money to implement it, so the proposal was rejected. Next, Ringo suggested feeding the monkeys because they were probably hungry. Everyone was surprised by the idea. Minori understood the logic, since it would give the monkeys less reason to steal vegetables. Kacho also supported the proposal. Kei admitted that it was not a bad idea, but he believed the monkeys had access to plenty of food from trees and other natural sources. In his view, they were taking the vegetables because they wanted to, so simply feeding them would not solve the problem. Kozaku then introduced what he considered his ultimate plan. He claimed to have plenty of experience dealing with monkeys. He proudly revealed the device he intended to use, explaining that it was 30 times more powerful than the previous version and capable of activating multiple functions at once. Kacho thought it looked impressive. Kozaku switched the device on and aimed it out the window. Unfortunately, nothing happened. Confused, he wondered why it was not working. Minori suspected that the mechanism had lost pressure and offered to inspect it. However, just as she leaned in to take a closer look, the device suddenly discharged in her direction. Fortunately, no serious harm was done, but the plan was immediately abandoned because it was considered too dangerous. After that, Kacho presented her own idea, which she called the World Equality Plan. She argued that humans and monkeys were both primates, so she wanted to try communicating with them. The proposal was quickly dismissed because everyone considered it unrealistic. Finally, Kei proposed a hunting strategy. He believed there was probably only one troublesome monkey responsible for the damage, and removing it would solve the problem. Kozaku felt that targeting the monkey was not the best approach. Kei, however, argued that difficult situations sometimes required firm action. He mentioned that he knew someone with exceptional skills who could handle the matter. Kei then introduced a man named Junichi to Kozaku and the others. Innocently, Ringo asked who the older man was. Hearing that, Kozaku quickly stopped her from saying anything more. Kacho, meanwhile, questioned why Kei had brought the man to meet them. She had expected Kei to bring someone capable of helping with the monkey problem, but instead she felt he had brought an eccentric individual. Kei explained that Junichi was a sharpshooter. Junichi proudly claimed that he was the founder of the Uomori shooting art. Kozaku asked what kind of equipment Junichi planned to use. To everyone's surprise, Junichi's chosen tool was a rolled-up Moe Anime poster. Curious, Kozaku asked what kinds of animals Junichi usually hunted. Junichi admitted that his usual targets were enthusiastic fans at events, spoken in a joking manner. He also casually revealed that he was currently unemployed. That night, they kept watch in the orchard. Junichi prepared a tranquilizer to stop the monkey. Before long, a monkey appeared in the field. With a single shot, the tranquilizer successfully subdued it. They quickly approached the animal. Ringo felt sorry when she saw the monkey's injured hand, but Kozaku insisted that she did not need to pity it. Minori also reminded everyone that protecting the crops was their top priority. Suddenly, Kacho laughed and remarked that she was not sure whether the monkey had been abandoned because it was injured or injured because it had been abandoned. She also wondered why that monkey was the only one left behind. Kei asked Kacho to show some kindness to the monkey. Kacho explained that she had already thought about the monkey's future. She had contacted a friend who worked at a zoo and arranged for the monkey to be taken there and cared for properly. Since the zoo only had female monkeys, she planned to send it there so it could have a companion. Kozaku felt relieved after hearing that. Minori joked that the monkey would become the zoo's newest male monkey. Kei thanked Kacho and said everyone could always count on her. Hearing that made Kacho nervous, and she quickly replied that she was doing it for the monkey, not for Kei. At that moment, Kozaku glanced at Ringo, who still looked saddened by the monkey's injury. Later that night, Kozaku went to Minori's room because he wanted to discuss something with her. Minori immediately blushed and asked him to wait for an hour so she could tidy up her room. After an hour had passed, Minori finally opened the door. Kozaku was surprised by how different the room looked. He even thought she had renovated it. Minori appeared extremely nervous and offered to let Kozaku use the bathroom first. Not long afterward, Kei arrived. It turned out that Kozaku had invited him as well. Kei was equally surprised by the appearance of Minori's room. While Minori looked embarrassed, Kozaku casually commented that she seemed to have completely remodeled it. Kei appeared to understand the situation right away. Minori then asked what Kozaku wanted to talk about. Her expression fell when she learned that he wanted to discuss Ringo. She quickly wished him good night and told him to leave. Kozaku was confused because they had not even started the conversation yet. He could not understand what mistake he had made. Kei remarked that Kozaku seemed remarkably unaware of certain things. Kozaku was even more puzzled by their reactions because he only wanted to show them something. He then played a video of Yuka performing during one of her idol concerts. Minori was shocked because she believed she had destroyed all copies of it. However, Kozaku revealed that he had simply purchased another one with his own money. Kozaku asked them to pay close attention to Yuka in the video. Kei and Minori both agreed that Yuka looked much more cheerful than Ringo. Kozaku pointed out that Ringo had never smiled since arriving at the school. From her first day there, through various incidents, group activities, games, Minori's challenge, and even the good news about the monkey, she had never shown a smile. Minori argued that the smile Yuka displayed during the concert was meant for the audience and the cameras. However, Kozaku felt that someone who never smiled at all seemed deeply troubled. Kei finally understood what Kozaku had been worried about. Meanwhile, Ringo was doing her laundry. After a while, Kei approached her and announced that he wanted to demonstrate a special trick. He attempted a ridiculous comedy routine in front of her, hoping to get a reaction, but Ringo remained completely expressionless. Kei became so embarrassed that he wished he could disappear on the spot. Kozaku and Minori watched from nearby, and Minori was convinced that Kei had been trying to make Ringo laugh. Later, while Ringo was in the kitchen, Minori approached her and playfully tried to tickle her. Kozaku was almost jealous of how boldly Minori acted. Minori was confident that her tickling skills would surely work and that Ringo's reaction would reveal her true feelings. Kozaku could barely contain his anticipation. Minori was certain that Ringo would eventually crack. To everyone's surprise, Ringo showed no reaction at all. Instead, she calmly asked if it was her turn. She then playfully tickled Minori, causing Minori to burst into laughter and eventually collapse onto the floor, exhausted. Afterward, Ringo asked what Kozaku had really wanted to do. Feeling somewhat embarrassed, Kozaku asked whether she felt uncomfortable living in the dormitory. He explained that she had always worn a serious expression ever since she arrived. Ringo finally understood that Kozaku and the others had been trying to make her laugh. Kozaku apologized if he and his friends had gone too far. Ringo admitted that she simply could not smile anymore. When she first arrived, she had mentioned that her facial expressions were naturally stiff. At first, she thought she might just be tired. However, she eventually realized that she had lost the ability to smile. She explained that she had tried many times, but nothing worked. She did not know where to go or what to do anymore. In many ways, she felt just like the monkey they had captured. Kozaku gently replied that she should be able to smile again someday because, just like the monkey, she now had a new place to belong. Ringo suddenly stood up. She thanked everyone for their kindness and apologized for causing them so much concern. After that, Minori wondered whether it was really possible for someone to be unable to smile. Kei thought it might be some kind of psychological condition. In his opinion, Ringo seemed exhausted from having to interact with so many people. He was not even sure whether it was something that could be treated. Kozaku really wanted to see Ringo smile. He even wondered if the three of them had been too selfish in the way they approached her situation. That night, Kozaku dreamed about meeting Wakadana. Wakadana claimed that he was Gaia. Gaia asked Kozaku to think again about what humanity had done to him and where he now stood. Before leaving, Gaia told Kozaku not to forget him. Not long afterward, Kozaku woke up from his sleep. He could not understand what had actually happened. Kozaku then began wondering what humans had truly done to Gaia. While harvesting fruit, Kozaku mentioned that he wanted to take Ringo somewhere and show her the soil. Kei and Minori agreed with the idea. They believed Ringo would understand if they showed it to her directly. The following day, Kozaku and the others went to a place where their alumni had started a special project. Kozaku was convinced that Ringo would find it interesting. After getting off the bus, they headed toward a barren piece of land. Kozaku asked Ringo to touch the soil. Ringo felt that it was rough and dry. Kozaku explained that this was what people called dead soil. Plants could no longer grow properly there. It happened when farmers kept planting the same crops in the same soil over and over again until the land could no longer support healthy growth. Kei added that many farmers continued relying heavily on chemical fertilizers to maintain production. Because harmful insects often became a problem, excessive amounts of fertilizer were used. According to him, dead soil was the result of those poor farming practices. Ringo then asked whether dead soil could ever return to its original condition. Kozaku explained that the barren field had originally come from the same soil as the healthy farm right beside it. It turned out that their alumni had started a restoration project there, while Kozaku and the others were responsible for helping take care of it. It had taken 7 years of effort to bring the land back to life. Although the soil had not fully recovered yet, the plants continued struggling and growing there. As Ringo looked across the stretch of barren land, she asked whether dead soil could truly be reborn. Their eyes met for a moment, and Ringo felt deeply sorry for the damaged land. After the discussion ended, Ringo asked for permission to eat a tomato from the field. Kozaku immediately picked a large tomato for her. Ringo's face turned slightly red, and she quickly took a bite of the tomato. Ringo commented that the tomato tasted a little bitter. Kozaku explained that it was because the tomato had not fully ripened yet. Even so, Ringo said she still wanted to eat it. Despite the bitterness, she genuinely liked it. Kozaku noticed that Ringo had shown a faint smile. Upon hearing that, Minori eagerly offered Ringo a tomato she had picked herself. Kei also brought over a tomato that was even redder than Minori's. Seeing all of this made Kozaku feel relieved. He believed that crops grown with genuine care could bring happiness to the people who ate them. More than that, he felt that cultivating plants was an incredibly rewarding experience. Kozaku sincerely hoped that Ringo would come to understand that someday. Afterward, Kozaku and the others smiled happily, delighted by the moment they shared together. One day, Kozaku and his friends gave Ringo an additional lesson. Previously, Ringo had learned about rice cultivation, and this time she was going to study dry field farming. The crop they planned to grow was soybeans. According to Kei, the reason he chose soybeans was because they were very easy to grow, especially for beginners. In addition, soybeans could be used for many different purposes. Minori explained that soybeans were used to make miso, soy sauce, tofu, tempeh, soy milk, soybean flour, and boiled soybeans. Kozaku added that soybeans could also be turned into bean sprouts and edamame. Ringo wondered whether edamame belonged to the legume family. Kei explained that soybeans were often considered an agricultural alternative to meat because of their nutritional value. Soybeans were not only beneficial for human health, but they could also grow in many different environments, which had attracted a great deal of attention. After that, Ringo planted soybean seeds in the soil. She wondered how long it would take for the soybeans to sprout. Kozaku explained that soybeans grew quite quickly. Ringo had initially thought they might sprout by the time school ended. Kei clarified that soybeans generally needed about 10 days to 2 weeks before they started growing. With that explanation finished, everyone prepared to plant the soybeans. Later, at the dormitory, Minori realized that they had run out of miso. She asked someone to bring more. Kozaku wondered if that meant they would need to get it from the biotechnology department. Curious, Ringo wanted to know what biotechnology was. Kozaku explained that it referred to the students in Class B, with the letter B standing for bio. Kei believed that miso was important, although he did not think very highly of the biotechnology department itself. Kozaku admitted that he was not particularly close to the biotechnology students because he often felt looked down upon there. Some students even considered him unusual. Kei mentioned that whenever the biotechnology students noticed them, they tended to avoid him whenever he tried to start a conversation. That behavior made him wonder whether they disliked him or if there was another reason they kept staring in his direction. Minori was not concerned about any of that. What mattered most was that without miso, there would be no miso soup for dinner. Kei then encouraged Kozaku to head to the biotechnology department and pick some up. Kei and Kozaku made their way to the biotechnology department. While they were climbing the stairs, Ringo suddenly asked whether they were really confident about going there. Her unexpected voice startled Kozaku. He was surprised that she had followed them. Ringo admitted that she was simply curious because she had never been there before. As it turned out, Kozaku and Kei had never visited the place either. When they arrived, Kozaku immediately opened the door. Inside the room were countless pieces of equipment and various materials. Kei observed that the bio students focused on a much wider range of subjects than their own class. Kozaku had not expected the biotechnology students to make use of so many different tools. Before long, a voice startled them. It belonged to Akari, who was known around the school as Biosuke. She was one of the school's famous top talents, recognized for her unusual abilities and eccentric personality. Kei wondered why someone like Akari had come to meet them. Akari explained that she was curious about the rumors surrounding the transfer student in Class 2A. She generously offered them as much miso as they wanted. Ringo commented on the wonderful aroma of the miso. Akari proudly explained that she had made the special miso from organic soybeans, a process that required a significant amount of time and effort. She even suggested pairing it with chilled cucumber to better appreciate its texture and flavor. Kozaku quickly collected the amount of miso they needed. Before they left, Akari asked for their help. She wanted them to test a new product she had developed. The product involved lactobacillus bacteria. Kozaku wondered if it was something similar to yogurt. Akari explained that her research involved plants capable of producing lactobacillus. She pointed out that these beneficial bacteria were not only found in milk but also in Japanese cucumbers, miso, and even in the surrounding air. She had named the project ANLBB, short for All Natural Life Science BioB. The unusual name immediately caught everyone's attention. Kozaku prepared to taste it, but Akari clarified that the yogurt-based substance was not intended for eating. Instead, it was designed for agricultural use. She explained that products containing yogurt cultures and other beneficial microorganisms could help reduce pests and encourage healthy growth. Since Akari had provided them with the miso they needed, Kei and Kozaku agreed to help with the experiment. The two of them then entered a testing room. To prevent their clothes from getting dirty, they changed into more suitable attire for the experiment. They were each given toy spray devices filled with the yogurt-based solution. Akari asked Ringo to observe from the side. The experiment began, and the two participants sprayed the solution as instructed. Kozaku was surprised when the mixture landed on him. Throughout the process, Akare continuously took photographs. Kei wondered why she was documenting everything. Akare explained that proper documentation was an essential part of her research. Kosaku could not understand why Akare seemed so enthusiastic about directing every step of the experiment. A short while later, she announced the end of the recording session. To Kosaku's surprise, several assistants who had been helping with the project stepped forward. Akare reviewed the results and pointed out several details she wanted documented more carefully. The assistants then helped clean up the testing area and remove the remaining solution from Kei and Kosaku. By the end of the session, Kosaku felt that the entire experience had resembled a media production more than a typical biology experiment. Kei did not mind being watched by other people and was not bothered by being teased or made the center of attention. Akare then told everyone to continue filming the movie titled Yu Yu Hakusho. Kosaku found the title strange, and before long a splash of yogurt landed on his face. Kosaku suspected that Akare might be an extreme fujoshi. Akare proudly claimed that she was a beautifully fermented girl. Kosaku pointed out that the expression still sounded like it meant something spoiled. Akare immediately disagreed, insisting that fermentation and spoilage were completely different things. Not long afterward, Kei fired yogurt into Kosaku's mouth, causing him to fall over. Kosaku wondered why Kei was running around without proper clothes on. Kei let out a wild laugh and seemed completely satisfied after covering Kosaku from head to toe with yogurt. Once filming was finished, the crew cleaned the yogurt off both Kei and Kosaku. Kei smiled with such relief that Kosaku thought he looked as if a huge weight had been lifted from his shoulders. Akare proudly declared that they had created an amazing film and promised to reward Kei and Kosaku for their efforts. She then mentioned that F had started making a move and warned Kosaku to be careful. Hearing that left Kosaku shocked. Afterward, Kosaku quietly ran through the forest. Minori and Ringo approached him, confused about what he was doing. Kosaku immediately told them to stay away. Ringo admitted that she was tired of waiting for him. Kosaku wondered whether Ringo understood the seriousness of the situation. Meanwhile, Minori became curious about what was happening. Kosaku explained that there used to be a class known for constantly getting into fights. Kei had once told him that a warrior-like code of conduct existed within that class. Long ago, the students of Class F were considered the only true originals. Ringo had never heard about Class F before. A moment later, a group of people who called themselves the Woodmen jumped down from the trees. One of the 4 strongest members of Class F was Rintaro. He declared that Kosaku was in serious trouble and that he wanted to settle things immediately. Kosaku could not understand why he was being targeted. Rintaro stated that whenever he disliked someone, he wanted that person gone from his life. What bothered him most was the fact that Kosaku could casually talk with girls. Since Class F stood for forest, its members had developed a rather intimidating appearance. Rintaro explained that after passing certain challenges, the students of Class F underwent extreme survival training, spending half a year living in the mountains. Because of that, they proudly called themselves the Woodmen. Rintaro could not accept that Kosaku and Kei spent their days planting eggplants and cucumbers while also having girls around them. Kosaku pointed out that there were girls in Class F as well. However, Rintaro revealed that all the girls in Class F had already left. Rintaro found it unbelievable that Class A already had someone like Minori. The Woodmen considered her an ideal future wife, yet Kosaku had also become close to Ringo, the new transfer student. Suddenly, Rintaro asked whether it was true that Kosaku and Minori had continued bathing together until their 3rd year of middle school. Kosaku clarified that they had only bathed together until November of their 2nd year. Hearing that made Rintaro even more upset. Kosaku quickly tried to explain. He said that he no longer had his mother, and his father had been gone since winter, so he had lived with Minori's family. He admitted that he often bathed together with Minori and her sisters as part of everyday family life. That explanation only fueled Rintaro's frustration. Kosaku added that the last time they had bathed together, back in November of their 2nd year, Minori still looked exactly like a child. Minori became annoyed by that comment and insisted that she had changed a lot by the time they reached high school. Kosaku responded that this was only her personal opinion. Minori grew even more irritated. She jokingly suggested that they could bathe together again and confidently claimed that Kosaku would not think anything unusual about it because they had known each other for so long. She even admitted that she missed the days when she used to scrub Kosaku's back. Kosaku immediately refused, but Minori continued teasing him. She even offered to let him help scrub her back as well. She jokingly suggested trying a different arrangement while bathing, and upon hearing that, the members of the Woodmen dramatically declared it to be incredibly romantic. One by one, the Woodmen collapsed from the overwhelming image of Kosaku and Minori's close friendship. Ringo, feeling annoyed, demanded to know whether the story about them bathing together was actually true. At that moment, Rintaro suddenly looked weak and exhausted. It seemed that he could not handle hearing about someone else's romantic success. Earlier, he had admitted to Kosaku that he desperately wanted the chance to sit beside girls himself. Rientaro had already decided to create a new department. His goal was to make Class F famous among girls. Curious, Kozaku asked how he planned to accomplish that. Rientaro proudly announced that he intended to use the concept of forest girls. Since Class F stood for forest, he claimed that the idea was the hottest trend among teenagers. Minori was surprised, pointing out that trends like that had already faded long ago. Kozaku agreed and bluntly said that the idea felt completely outdated. Rientaro wanted the students of Class F to have girls around them, sit next to girls, and even experience romantic moments at school. The woodman jokingly said that the F in Class F stood for female. Kei commented that the forest girl type was certainly unusual, but that a new type of forest girl had just appeared. Hearing that, Rientaro and the others immediately treated Kei like their mentor. According to Kei, forest girls were basically the same as mountain girls because they enjoyed activities such as hiking, cycling, and climbing. Kei explained that mountain climbing had recently become a popular trend. In unison, the members of Class F declared that the F actually stood for Fuji. Inspired by that idea, Rientaro led his group on a trip to the mountains. Meanwhile, Akare was relaxing on the school rooftop with her friends. They considered Rientaro from Class F to be the weakest among the four greats. Akari laughed and remarked that Rientaro had allowed himself to get distracted by girls. That same day, Ringo and Wakadana went to the abandoned field. Suddenly, a young man appeared and invited Ringo to come with him. At the same time, Kozaku was searching for Ringo because they had planned to meet at the library. He eventually went to the abandoned field and found the book Ringo had been carrying lying on the ground. At that moment, Ringo was chatting with the young man. Not long afterward, Kozaku arrived and approached them. He recognized the man standing beside Ringo as Kaoru from Class E. Kozaku explained that Kaoru was the representative of Class E's landscape department and one of the four greats. He was also known as the most handsome student in the school. Kozaku declared that he could not forgive Kaoru for taking Ringo and Wakadana away. However, it turned out that Ringo had willingly followed Kaoru after being tempted with snacks. Kozaku scolded her and warned her not to follow strangers so easily. He then asked Kaoru what he was planning. In the past, Kozaku had driven Kaoru away from Class A because Kaoru had been bothering Minori the previous year and Kozaku was still irritated about it. Kaoru casually replied that he would do whatever he wanted. Kozaku answered that he would do whatever was necessary to protect Ringo. Kaoru then challenged Kozaku to settle their dispute with a Pocky game. The rules were simple. Each participant would bite one end of a Pocky stick and continue eating until it was gone. Kozaku was confident that he could win. The game began. As they ate from opposite ends, the distance between them grew shorter and shorter. Kozaku became startled when he noticed that Kaoru had closed his eyes. He felt increasingly uncomfortable with the situation. Fortunately, Kei arrived at just the right moment and told Kozaku to move away from Kaoru. Unfortunately, the awkward situation only drew more attention as several students arrived on the scene. Akari and her group immediately started taking photos. Rientaro and his friends were completely shocked by what they had witnessed. Kaoru then let Kozaku go and teasingly claimed that he had always held a special place in Kozaku's heart. Kozaku was furious about everything Kaoru had put him through. Kaoru admitted that he had been looking forward to a moment like this for a long time. At that point, Kozaku realized that this was the real reason Kaoru had been bothering Minori and taking Ringo away. Kaoru openly admitted it. Kozaku called Kaoru a troublemaker and insisted that everyone should have stopped him much earlier. Instead, Akare enthusiastically commented that the photos would make a perfect cover for a popular boys' love magazine. Rientaro remarked that it felt like an entirely different world. Minori even became emotional and pleaded for Kozaku to come back. Suddenly, Ringo asked where the other members of the four greats were, since only Akari, Rientaro, and Kaoru were present. Everyone was caught off guard by her question. Moitama eggs were marketed as eggs with a rich, delicate texture, whether they were eaten boiled or even raw. Moitama eggs were unfertilized eggs produced by chickens that were fed organic feed. What had originally started as a simple experiment unexpectedly turned into a goldmine. One morning at school, Minori asked Kozaku whether he had heard about Momai, which had recently become a hot topic. The product had gained attention by placing cute character illustrations on rice bags and selling extremely well in the market. Minori wondered whether stories like that were actually true. Kei explained that it was indeed a real phenomenon. The product had hired a talented illustrator who created a character inspired by Akira Kamachi. The artwork was then printed on rice bags and sold online. Surprisingly, within just 3 months, they had managed to sell 32 tons of rice. That amount was twice their usual annual sales, achieved in only a quarter of the year. Kozaku thought the achievement was incredible. Minori commented that they might also need to start thinking about packaging for any products they planned to sell in the future. At that moment, a student named Torao approached them. Torao, known as Money Kanagami, was one of the school's most influential students. It was the first time Ringo had ever seen him. Kozaku explained that there was a group often referred to as the school's elite. According to him, the members included Kacho, also known as Buin Yoshida from Class A, Akari, also known as Bio Suzuki from Class B, Woodman Rintaro from Class F, Kaoru, also known as Rose Hanazono from Class E, and Torao, also known as Moni Kanagami from Class D, who specialized in agribusiness. Ringo pointed out that the list contained 5 people rather than 4. Kozaku simply suggested that she not worry too much about that detail. Curious about Torao's sudden appearance, Kozaku wondered what brought him there. Torao responded in a friendly manner, implying that Kozaku seemed unusually cold considering how long it had been since they had last met. Kozaku was surprised because he thought Torao was still serving a suspension related to the Kanagami Fund incident. Torao explained that his suspension had ended the previous day. After that, he mentioned that Kozaku and the others appeared to be discussing something interesting. He expressed interest in joining the conversation and revealed that he had already been developing a business idea based on a similar concept. Kozaku felt that the idea sounded more complicated than it appeared. Minori also had doubts, especially since they would need an illustrator or manga artist to create the artwork. Torao laughed and confidently explained that he had already taken care of that issue. He claimed that he had secured the assistance of the renowned artist Kipu Sensei. Hearing that, Kozaku, Minori, and Kei could hardly believe it. Kipu Sensei was widely known for creating illustrations for light novels, with work that had been featured in magazines and across the internet. Kipu Sensei was also known for contributing illustrations to a humorous light novel set in an agricultural school, a project that had attracted considerable attention. Torao continued by explaining that Kipu Sensei was a true professional with extensive experience. Because of that, he felt confident that their product would sell successfully. Kozaku admitted that the plan sounded promising. Torao promised that he would share the profits if Kozaku and the others agreed to help him. He understood that many people were reluctant to trust him, but he believed that if Kozaku and his friends became involved, others would be more willing to listen. Unexpectedly, Minori announced that she and Kozaku would support the project. Kozaku was confused about why only he and Minori had been volunteered. Minori explained that she was simply trying to manage the risk in case Torao ended up getting into trouble again. Kei then asked about Torao's sales strategy. Torao explained that they needed something that would stand out. Since they already had a famous artist involved, the most important requirement was a product that could be supplied in large and consistent quantities. There would be little value in having attractive packaging if the product itself could not meet demand. The most abundant and reliable product at their school was, of course, chicken eggs. With that in mind, they approached Kacho to present their proposal. However, Kacho rejected the idea immediately. She strongly disliked the concept of moe-related marketing. In Kacho's view, Kozaku and the others should focus on putting genuine effort into the quality of their products rather than relying on promotional trends. Torao explained that he only wanted to change the way the products were marketed. He also argued that school was the perfect place to experiment with new ideas. Kacho disagreed and remained convinced that Torao was hiding some ulterior motive. Torao urged her to reconsider. He explained that if the eggs were sold online, Kacho's products could reach customers throughout Japan. Such success could potentially make her both wealthy and widely recognized. Kacho responded that supporting local production was what mattered most to her. She could not forget the customers who already supported her products. Torao then tried a different approach. He reminded Kacho about concerns surrounding eggs produced under poor conditions, such as chickens raised in unsanitary environments and treated improperly. He emphasized that Kacho took excellent care of her chickens and suggested that more people deserve the opportunity to enjoy eggs produced through such responsible methods. He continued to insist that their goal was ultimately to benefit consumers. After hearing his reasoning, Kacho gradually softened her stance. Despite her earlier opposition, she eventually agreed to consider the proposal. Watching the exchange unfold, Kozaku could not help but admire Torao's persuasive skills. The egg product was named Moitama. They planned to create a marketing strategy using the mascot Innocent Peggy. Kozaku asked about the status of their product blog. Kacho explained that the blog had been receiving a very positive response. Kozaku then asked Minori about the media coverage. Minori reported that they had already been featured in 3 anime magazines. Not long afterward, Kei received a phone call informing them that there had been a request for figure merchandising rights. Kozaku could not believe things were moving that quickly. According to Torao, there seemed to be some kind of event creating additional attention. He described it as free publicity and said there was no harm in taking advantage of the opportunity. The Moitama commercial video was quickly produced, with Ringo serving as the voice actress. Soon after, Torao received a call from a customer who wanted to place an order for Moitama. However, demand had become so overwhelming that customers would need to wait up to 3 weeks for delivery. While Kozaku and the others were busy packing eggs, Ringo suddenly informed them that the school server had gone down. Kozaku was convinced it was because they were being flooded with orders. In addition to the online traffic, phone orders were pouring in as well. Everyone became increasingly busy, and it was clear they needed more people to help. Kacho was delighted to learn that her eggs were selling so well. The Moitama business continued to grow, and they even hired other students to handle incoming phone orders. Meanwhile, Kozaku and the others were discussing new ideas for the Moitama brand. They also worked on creating mascots for both boiled and raw eggs. Before long, Ringo brought in some character designs from Kipu Sensei. The illustrations appeared to depict mature women, making the characters seem older than expected. Minori was confused because they had originally requested younger-looking characters. Kacho felt that there had probably been a misunderstanding. Torao, however, thought the designs were perfectly fine and believed the gentle duck-themed character suited soft-boiled eggs very well. Kozaku and the others agreed with the suggestion and quickly added the designs to the website homepage. That night, Kei unexpectedly informed Kozaku that he was resigning from the project. In his opinion, producers should focus more on product quality. Kozaku argued that even the best product would be meaningless if nobody wanted to buy or consume it. Kei insisted that Kozaku did not understand the situation. Kozaku could not see what was wrong with selling something people genuinely wanted. Despite that, Kei stood by his decision and left, riding away on his goat. Later that evening, Kozaku was at a cafe with Torao. A television program was broadcasting an interview with Kacho, who had become known as the producer of Moitama. During the interview, a reporter asked her questions about her farming lifestyle and the success of the product. Kacho responded modestly and mentioned Moitama as part of her daily routine. Kozaku was surprised by how famous she had become and by how incredibly well Moitama was selling. Torao commented that Moitama's success had exceeded even his own expectations. Torao compared business management to cooking, explaining that people should avoid pushing things too far. In his view, success came from knowing the right timing and maintaining balance. Unlike inexperienced people who might get carried away and continue without considering the consequences, successful entrepreneurs understood when it was time to stop. Kozaku asked how long Moitama would continue operating. Torao revealed that, in a sense, Moitama had already reached its conclusion and that they would soon need to step away from it. Kozaku was shocked and asked why. Torao explained that a local farm had requested the trademark rights to Moitama, and the school was seriously considering the proposal because it could benefit the local community and economy. Torao reminded Kozaku that they were still students. Even though they were selling products owned by the school, they would not personally receive profits from the business. He emphasized that school was not a place for making money but a place for learning. More importantly, students should take advantage of as many opportunities as possible, as long as those opportunities did not create unnecessary risks. He added that the connections and relationships built during school were valuable assets, often worth far more than money itself. According to Torao, they had already enjoyed the best part of the experience. Kozaku was surprised that Torao felt that way because he had always assumed Torao cared only about money. Torao admitted that he did pursue money, but not because it was the only thing that mattered. While money was certainly important to him, he understood that some things were even more valuable. Even though the Moitama project was coming to an end, they were already preparing to target a completely different customer base. According to Torao, after finding success with male customers, their next focus would be female consumers through BL-themed content. Suddenly, Akare appeared and startled Kozaku. It turned out that Torao had intentionally invited her. Torao explained that women would be the primary target market for their next project. In his opinion, women often spent more money on hobbies, personal interests, and the people they cared about. Kozaku, confused by the sudden change in direction, asked what exactly Torao was planning. Torao talked about the wood mushroom cultivation project being carried out by Class F. The mushrooms they were growing included shiitake and shimeji mushrooms. Their next step would be selling the harvest. Kozaku asked whether Torao had considered Mokino's opinion. Torao explained that he was not planning to focus on the mushrooms themselves, but rather on the logs used to grow them. Torao then showed a rough concept illustration related to his business idea. Kozaku was shocked and quickly realized that he would probably end up being dragged into the project. Torao smiled and admitted that once he made enough money, he planned to move on to his next venture. In his opinion, making a strong impact with a bold marketing strategy was the key to success in business. Kozaku thought the idea was going way too far. Wanting another opinion, Kozaku asked Akari what she thought. Unexpectedly, Akari suggested adding yogurt to the mushrooms. She was convinced that using her special yogurt would help them grow faster. Torao was intrigued by her idea and became confident that their product would sell well. Later, Kozaku went to see Rintaro and told him about the plan. Rintaro seemed unfriendly and immediately challenged him in an intimidating manner. Kozaku explained that he wanted to make use of Class F skills, but Rintaro initially had no interest in what he considered another one of Kozaku's ridiculous ideas. Kozaku asked whether the task was too difficult, which was why Rintaro was rejecting it. Rintaro replied that it was actually quite simple. All they needed to do was drill holes into logs and insert mushroom spawn. Torao claimed that this was the perfect opportunity to showcase the unique talents of the forestry department and attract attention from a niche audience of imaginative young consumers in Japan. That description seemed to catch Reintaro's interest. Torao asked whether Class F wanted to become well-known among that audience. He assured Reintaro that if the product became successful, he would gain recognition and many students would become interested in joining the forestry department. Hearing that, Reintaro finally became interested and asked Kosaku to explain the plan in detail. Soon afterward, Kosaku, Torao, Akari, and Reintaro gathered to discuss the business they intended to build. Their product was called Pick Them From There, My Mushrooms. Reintaro had already gathered several edible mushroom varieties. Akari explained that anal BB yogurt would be used to support the mushroom's growth. Kosaku planned to market the product through a fermentation-themed network and present it as a handmade craft item. Torao laughed and pointed out that if rumors about the project spread, they could easily get into trouble. Because of that, they decided to keep the operation quiet. Unfortunately, their plan eventually came to light. As a result, Ms. Natsumi gave Kosaku a suspension from school. One evening, Kosaku and the others attended the Tanabata festival while wearing yukata. Ms. Natsumi commented that Ringo looked very good in her yukata. She then followed the compliment with a playful joke, leaving Ringo surprised that she had been teased right after being praised. Kei brought up the mushroom product that Kosaku and the others had tried to sell. Their scheme had been exposed after parents of students purchased the item and reported it. Kosaku received a 3-day suspension, and Kei hoped he would learn an important lesson from the experience. According to Ms. Natsumi, Kosaku had actually received a fairly light punishment. Torao had been suspended for 3 weeks because he had been the mastermind behind the incident and had caused the biggest problems. The entire Class F received a severe warning and disciplinary action from their homeroom teacher. In addition, they would be spending their summer vacation at the summit area of Mount Ontake. Not long afterward, Torao and Akari arrived. Torao admitted that he intended to start another business as soon as his suspension ended. He even invited Kosaku to join him again, but Kosaku immediately refused. Before leaving, Torao asked whether everything that had happened had at least been enjoyable. Kosaku admitted that it had. Torao laughed and walked away. Minori found it surprising that Torao and Akari never seemed to learn their lesson. Afterward, Kosaku and the others wrote their wishes on strips of paper and hung them from bamboo branches. Ms. Natsumi wrote a huge number of wishes and proudly displayed every single one of them. Kosaku also wrote down his wish. Everyone had something they hoped for, and at the very least, everyone seemed happy. Kosaku might not have been completely happy himself, but at least he still had something to wish for. One summer day, Kosaku complained about how unbearably hot it was out in the fields. Kei pointed out that tomatoes, cucumbers, and other summer vegetables thrived much better in warm weather than during winter. Ringo wondered whether tomatoes simply did not like the cold. Kosaku explained that temperatures that were too low caused tomatoes to grow slowly and become wrinkled. Ringo then asked whether soybeans were able to handle the summer heat. Kei explained that soybeans could be grown in many different types of soil and were known for their exceptional resilience. He asked Kosaku to explain the 3 primary nutrients used in farming to Ringo. Kosaku said that the 3 essential nutrients were nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Without nitrogen, plants would not be able to grow properly. The remarkable thing about soybeans was their ability to produce their own nitrogen. They absorbed nitrogen molecules from the air and converted them into nitrogen compounds. In other words, soybeans were capable of creating their own natural fertilizer. Ringo commented on how amazing soybeans really were. As July arrived and the intense summer heat settled over the farm, the busiest season of the year began. One day, Minori prepared an enormous spread of food. There were cucumbers, tomatoes, eggplants, peppers, bitter melon, okra, ginger, pumpkins, zucchini, and corn. Since she had received all the ingredients for free, everyone was able to enjoy as much food as they wanted. According to Kei, one of the most important principles for agriculture students like them, who work closely with food and life itself, was never wasting food. They quickly gathered together and enjoyed the feast. By the afternoon, Kosaku felt completely stuffed. His classmates talked about how Minori had created mountains of dishes using leftover crops. The conversation reminded everyone of the melon festival from the previous year. Before long, Kacho approached Kosaku, who was still struggling with how full he felt. Some of the other students became distracted by Kacho's striking appearance and jokingly compared it to a melon. Kosaku mentioned that the melon he had sent to Ringo was especially sweet. To his surprise, Ringo already knew that. That evening, Minori once again prepared a huge amount of food. Everyone sat down together and enjoyed another hearty meal. Kei praised Minori's sesame curry. There was also a crisp pear curry and a luxurious ratatouille that seemed even better than usual. Minori was delighted to see everyone eating so enthusiastically. As they prepared to take a bath later, Kosaku remarked to Kei that it felt as if they had gained weight. Kei assumed the extra bulk came from muscle developed during harvesting. However, both Kozaku and Kei had actually put on some weight from eating such large portions. Minori and Ringo had also become noticeably heavier. Kozaku soon realized that their larger bodies were not the result of muscle growth but simply overeating. Minori did not appreciate his comment at all. Kozaku bluntly pointed out that both Minori and Ringo had gained quite a bit of weight. When the two girls looked at each other, they realized their bodies had indeed become softer and fuller. Ringo blamed Minori for constantly making so many delicious meals. Minori became annoyed, and the two began arguing with each other. Kozaku found the situation strangely entertaining. He jokingly described it as a clumsy wrestling match. Kei observed that both Minori and Ringo seemed awkward in their movements because they had not yet adjusted to their recent changes in size. Understanding the situation, Kozaku suggested that they all start a diet together. According to Kei, the best way to lose weight was through exercise. Fortunately, they were studying in an environment that strongly encouraged physical activity. Everyone also hoped that Ringo would return to her usual condition. Kei remarked that the issue was not her past experience as an idol, but rather the need for better self-control. Kozaku added that he was even more concerned about Minori. Just then, Minori approached and asked what they were discussing. Kozaku showed her a photo he had taken of her the previous night. At the time, Minori had been upset because she felt unhappy with how much weight she had gained. The picture had captured her from an unflattering angle, making her appearance look quite different from usual. Kozaku could not imagine how embarrassed she would feel if her family ever saw it. Unfortunately, he accidentally sent the photo. Annoyed, Minori immediately tried to grab Kozaku's phone. Suddenly, Ringo arrived and reported that white foam had appeared around the soybean plants. Kozaku suspected it was a type of fungus that had grown quickly due to excessive watering. Ringo admitted that she had been watering the plants every single day, even when it rained. Kozaku reassured her not to worry. He explained that it was only a fungus and was confident that the soybeans would recover soon. Ringo still looked very disappointed. Wanting to cheer her up, Kozaku invited her to take a walk around the fields with him during their next break. As soon as they arrived at the field, Kozaku immediately dug up a soybean plant and noticed white growths around its roots. He quickly asked Ringo to call the teachers. The teachers inspected the plants right away and discovered that the white growths were a plant disease known as white blight. Plants infected with white blight die easily, and even worse, the disease produces Sclerotium rolfsi fungus in the soil, which is how it spreads. This meant that the soil itself had become contaminated. Unfortunately, there was no effective way to fix the problem. If even a small amount of the fungus remained, it could affect the crops grown the following year. To prevent that from happening, they would have to remove the contaminated soil and destroy all of the affected plants. That night, Kei and Kozaku talked together in the dormitory. They both understood how serious the situation was. It turned out that other schools using soil from the same supplier had also been affected by the white blight. Kei felt that if he had discovered the issue sooner, some preventive measures might have been possible. Kozaku told Kei not to blame himself. Minori later came to see them, and Kozaku asked about Ringo's condition. Minori explained that Ringo wanted to be alone for a while. She had not come out for dinner, so Minori had left some food for her. Minori asked Kozaku to speak with Ringo, believing that Ringo would listen if the words came from him. She was counting on Kozaku to help. Kozaku immediately went to Ringo's room and called out to her. He explained that farming was enjoyable and fascinating, but there was also a reason why some farmers were not always highly regarded. Working hard did not guarantee a stable income, which meant that earnings could never be completely relied upon. Ringo then asked why Kozaku had chosen farming in the first place. Kozaku admitted that he did not know. Even now, he still could not clearly explain the reason. Afterward, Kozaku returned to Minori and Kei. He was unsure how Ringo had reacted to what he said. Kei felt that she probably just needed some time to process everything. While they were working in the field, Kei revealed that he had actually chosen soybeans because he wanted Ringo to gain experience with dry field farming and feel more comfortable. He hoped the soybeans would not only improve the soil but also help Ringo grow as a person. Most of all, he did not want her to regret coming to the school. Kozaku admitted that he was grateful to have friends like them. Suddenly, Akare rushed over excitedly and started taking pictures of them. She jokingly described the scene as a forbidden friendship blooming at school. She even planned to create a fictional story based on it. Torao mentioned that he could sell copies for 500 yen each to the thousands of members in the Franken group. Rintaro and Kaoru soon joined them as well. Kozaku wondered why all 4 members of the school's famous group were gathered there. Akare handed over some miso and mountain lily. Kozaku asked if they were intended for Ringo. Akare brushed it off as nothing special, but Rintaro immediately teased her, saying that she was simply too embarrassed to deliver them personally. After that, the 4 of them left. Kei admitted that it was the first time he had ever seen the group act that way. Kozaku felt confident that Ringo would be alright, and Kei hoped the same. That afternoon, Ringo was still feeling down in her room as heavy rain poured outside. Kozaku suddenly woke up from a nap and looked out the window. Kei hurried over and said that the situation was becoming urgent. Together, they woke Minori and Ringo. Kei also called for all of their classmates to help. Ringo asked what was happening. Kozaku explained that they needed to harvest the tomatoes immediately. He admitted that they might already be too late, but they still had to try. He then showed Ringo several tomatoes that had split open. The weather had been extremely hot over the past few days, causing the tomatoes to become dehydrated. When heavy rain arrived suddenly, the fruit absorbed too much water at once, causing the tomatoes to crack. Just then, Kacho came to help them. Kei asked everyone to leave the burst tomatoes for later. Together, they continued harvesting tomatoes in the pouring rain. Ringo could not help noticing the damaged tomatoes. The split and misshapen tomatoes were separated from the good ones. Even so, they could still be used for porridge, jam, or preserved foods. At that moment, Ringo wondered how everyone could stay so calm after experiencing such a setback. The crops they had cared for with patience and dedication seemed as though they would go to waste. She could not understand how they were able to endure it so well. Kozaku smiled and asked Ringo to come with him. He led her to a higher spot where they could look out over the surrounding area. Kozaku was certain that Ringo probably thought the place was in the middle of nowhere, but Ringo felt it was beautiful because of the nature around it. Kozaku explained that the true natural landscape had long since disappeared. The rice fields, farms, mountain slopes, roads, and rivers were all things that people had gradually built and shaped over generations. Their ancestors had faced the harsh challenges of nature. Not only that, but the place where they lived had once been a battleground where people struggled to coexist with the forces of nature. It might have been difficult to explain, but for some reason, Kozaku felt that Ringo had only been looking ahead, waiting for her crops to grow. He believed that was probably the same mindset shared by the people who had built everything around them. They must have imagined what the town would become and dreamed about a distant future. Those dreams were what kept them moving forward. Perhaps someday someone would eat the crops they grew, and the positive feelings those crops brought would inspire that person in the future. Maybe they would simply give someone the strength to get through a single day. Kozaku believed that those small things could make the future better, and that was exactly the kind of crop he wanted to grow. That was why he still wanted to continue farming. Suddenly, Ringo asked whether Kozaku had really been the one sending her vegetables. There had been a time when Ringo was exhausted and could barely eat anything. One day, a member of her staff prepared a salad and told her that it had been made with vegetables sent by a fan. Thinking she should at least try it, she forced herself to take a few bites. The experience surprised her. The vegetables tasted earthy, slightly bitter, firm, yet also incredibly gentle. Kozaku felt that he had probably never sent anything that special. Ringo described it as the taste of life itself. She felt as though someone had shared a part of their life with her. Tears began to fill her eyes as she continued speaking. It felt as though someone had been supporting her all along, and after that day she decided to eat whatever food Kozaku sent her. She had also looked forward to receiving his letters. Ever since they started exchanging letters, she had wanted to meet him in person. The whole experience had seemed wonderful to her. Kozaku replied that he had never written any letters at all. Ringo remained convinced that Kozaku was the one who had sent the vegetables. Kozaku insisted that he had never written a letter or even included his name. Ringo explained that she had seen Kozaku's name along with a photograph of him and everyone else. That only made Kozaku even more confused. The two of them returned to the dormitory. Ringo handed the photograph and the letter to Kozaku. As soon as he read the letter, he was completely shocked. Not long afterward, Minori and Kei returned to the dormitory. Minori wondered why Kozaku looked so serious. Kozaku showed them the letter and the photograph. He then asked Minori why she had written the letter and used his name when sending it to Ringo. Minori had not expected to be found out. She explained that she had only been trying to help so that Kozaku would not seem suspicious. In her opinion, if a package arrived without a name attached, it would probably be thrown away. Kozaku argued that the letter contained words that were not his own, and that it could have affected Ringo's feelings unfairly. Realizing his point, Minori immediately apologized to Ringo. She admitted that she had written about school life, the things people talked about, and the events that happened at school. Ringo responded by hugging Minori. She explained that she had wanted to meet the person who wrote those letters for a very long time. Both Minori and Kozaku were surprised by her reaction. Ringo said that she wanted to talk with Minori about all the things mentioned in the letters, including school life and farming. She admitted that she had loved everything Minori wrote. Minori then asked whether Ringo was not upset that she had pretended to be Kozaku. Ringo felt that they were even because she had also been hiding her own feelings. The identity behind the letters was not what mattered most to her. What mattered was that everything Minori had written in them had been sincere and true. The two girls smiled together and even gave each other special nicknames. Kozaku could hardly believe how quickly they had become so close. According to Kei, the situation had turned out well. Ringo had returned to her usual self and the mystery had finally been solved. Kei considered it a happy ending. For Kozaku, however, it did not feel that way at all. That day, Kozaku was filling out his school journal. Nothing particularly exciting had happened during his time at school. He He had simply been going through his usual days, surrounded by the same people and following the same routines. It was a calm and ordinary day. That day, Kosaku and his friends were helping out in the cornfield, checking for insects and pests. Kosaku was surprised to see Kacho there. Kacho looked startled when Kosaku noticed her presence. Kosaku asked whether she had been assigned to work in the field. Kacho then asked if Kosaku and the other dormitory students were very busy during the summer. Kosaku replied that he only had a few practical assignments to complete. Kacho wondered whether Kei would be going home or had any other plans. Kosaku admitted that he did not know and suggested that she ask Kei directly. Suddenly, Kosaku called out to Kei, causing Kacho to panic and immediately cover her face. Kosaku then asked Kei whether he had any plans for the summer vacation that year. Kei said that he would be staying in the dormitory and working a part-time job. Kosaku invited Kei to go to the beach with him. He also asked whether Kacho would like to come along. Kacho could not understand why she would need to go with the two of them. Kosaku teased her by asking whether she was sure she did not want to spend time at the beach with Kei. Kacho became flustered and complained that Kosaku was being mean. At that moment, all of the animals suddenly disappeared. Kosaku felt that something was approaching. Kei was certain that whatever was coming was not a human being. The terrifying figure that appeared turned out to be Ms. Natsumi, who had arrived in one of her usual over-the-top moods. She dramatically referred to herself as a woman obsessed with romance. Kosaku wondered if Kacho's presence had somehow triggered the situation. Kei immediately told his goat to run and asked Kacho to escort the girls to safety inside the building. He grabbed a corn stalk to use as a makeshift tool for protection. Kosaku warned him not to get too close. Ms. Natsumi sped through the field, and the students who saw her quickly moved out of the way. Fortunately, Kei managed to stop her path and asked her to calm down. Kosaku jokingly thought that her behavior was related to her frustration about being single. Ms. Natsumi accelerated her motorcycle and nearly collided with Kei. Kosaku and Kei became worried when they realized that she was heading toward the school building. The girls ran to safety and Ringo stumbled along the way. Minori tried to help her up while Kacho stood protectively in front of them. Ms. Natsumi became even more determined in her pursuit. Kosaku and Kei could not catch her because she was moving so quickly. Suddenly, the goat signaled for Kei to climb onto its back. Kei charged forward at full speed and passed Ms. Natsumi. He blocked her path and managed to stop her. Sending her tumbling into the mud, Kei remarked that Ms. Natsumi was a formidable opponent. He then asked whether Kacho had been hurt. Kacho immediately became flustered and embarrassed by his concern. At that moment, Ms. Natsumi declared that she would make everyone regret getting in her way. The cornfield was in good condition, and that morning everything seemed normal as usual. Minori found herself curious about Kacho and asked about clothing sizes that would fit someone with her physique. Kacho looked annoyed and refused to answer. Minori remained extremely curious. Kosaku jokingly thought that ordinary size categories could hardly describe Kacho's proportions and exaggerated that they seemed to belong in a category all their own. Moboyama dismissed the discussion entirely, claiming that people placed too much importance on physical appearance. Tanabe added his own opinion, while Kei argued that neither of them truly understood the subject. Someone else insisted that appearance should not determine a person's value. Moboyama then asked Rorita to share his thoughts. Rorita was known for having unusual preferences and viewpoints. According to Kei, men are often drawn to qualities that symbolize warmth, comfort, and nurturing characteristics. Because of that, some people may find certain physical traits appealing. Rorita argued that Kei's reasoning was far too simplistic. In Rorita's view, while people may naturally seek comfort and care from others, their understanding of relationships changes as they mature. As individuals become more independent, they begin to develop a stronger sense of responsibility and guidance toward younger generations. Kei was surprised by that answer. Rorita continued by saying that when a man grows older and becomes a father, he should demonstrate kindness, responsibility, and a caring attitude toward younger people. Kei had not expected such a response. The idea made him imagine himself taking on a more mature and responsible role. In the end, Kei concluded that young people truly represented the future and deserved support and encouragement. Rorita asked what Kosaku thought. Kosaku admitted that he paid more attention to legs than to a person's figure. He especially liked details such as women's feet in knee-high socks or the appearance of boots after being worn throughout the summer. Just thinking about those things was enough to make him happy. Not long afterward, Natsumi-sensei arrived in the classroom, and the room immediately fell silent. She wondered why everyone had suddenly become so quiet, but the students seemed reluctant to face her. Natsumi-sensei was confused because she had done her best to act as if everything was normal, yet the students joked that her presence made the atmosphere feel awkward. Irritated, she struck a dramatic pose similar to Gaia. Kei commented that doing something like that at her age was far from normal. According to Kosaku, Natsumi-sensei seemed like one of those lifelong singles who appeared whenever couples were around. In his imagination, such people had somehow missed every opportunity to get married and remain single. They were surrounded by the flames of jealousy and always managed to recover after repeated disappointments. Kosaku even described Natsumi-sensei as a true phoenix. At that moment, Kei felt that the situation had become dangerous and urged everyone to run away. However, Natsumi-sensei quickly put an end to their antics with her overwhelming energy. Natsumi-sensei then found herself reflecting on her entire life, from birth, kindergarten, grade school, middle school, high school, university, and work, all the way to the present at the age of 40. She never imagined that even her niece, who had just entered high school, would already have a boyfriend. The students reacted dramatically after hearing her story. None of them wanted to end up single like Natsumi-sensei. Kei believed that spending 40 Christmases alone would be incredibly lonely. The future she described seemed gloomy and frightening. Kosaku became depressed imagining a life without hopes or dreams. Before long, however, Natsumi-sensei calmed down and the class returned to normal. That afternoon, Kosaku and the others were scheduled to attend home economics class. Kosaku and Ringo stood at the front of the room to participate in a demonstration. Their instructor was Natsumi-sensei. Despite being 40 years old, she was unusually cheerful. Natsumi-sensei explained that they would be making a dish that many men tended to enjoy. Her strategy was simple: avoid ingredients that people generally disliked and focus on things they liked. She asked Kosaku what foods he disliked. Kosaku replied that he liked almost everything. Natsumi-sensei became frustrated by his long-winded answer. She began the lesson with dried salted skipjack tuna. When she handed it to Ringo, Ringo's confused reaction only made her more annoyed. Kosaku explained that Ringo was not particularly skilled at that kind of task. Natsumi-sensei bluntly said that Ringo was not being very helpful. Ringo became angry and looked ready to confront her, but Kosaku immediately stepped in and stopped her. Natsumi-sensei demonstrated the first steps of preparing the skipjack tuna. She examined the fish closely and commented on its strong aroma, which she personally liked. Her enthusiasm for the ingredient became so exaggerated that Kosaku lightly scolded her for making the explanation sound strange. Realizing she had gone too far, Natsumi-sensei apologized. She then asked Kosaku to grate the fish. After briefly demonstrating the technique, she encouraged him to keep grating steadily and efficiently. Once that was finished, she instructed him to place rice into a bowl and pour noodle broth over it. Kosaku wondered what kind of dish she was trying to make. After adding the broth, Natsumi-sensei sprinkled the grated skipjack tuna on top, completing the meal. Kosaku asked whether such a simple dish was not a little boring. Natsumi-sensei replied that quick and practical meals could be very useful in everyday life. She asked the class to imagine coming home to the same routine every day, rarely being invited to social gatherings, collapsing onto a bed after work, sleeping until morning, and spending free time browsing the internet without having the energy to cook. Kosaku finally understood why she had chosen such a simple rice and broth recipe. Afterward, Natsumi-sensei explained that there were 4 important principles in cooking. She asked Ringo to name them. Ringo answered with sugar, salt, and sushi vinegar, but she could not remember the 4th one. Natsumi-sensei teased her for getting it wrong. Ringo became annoyed once again and looked ready to argue, but Kosaku quickly intervened and asked what the final S stood for. Without any hesitation, Natsumi-sensei gave a joking answer that caught everyone off guard. She then remarked that people often pay attention when someone is cooking for them. Hearing that, Kosaku imagined Ringo preparing a meal especially for him. The thought embarrassed him so much that he begged Natsumi-sensei to move on and start cooking something else. Natsumi-sensei responded with another outrageous joke, leaving the entire class speechless. Suddenly, Natsumi-sensei made a remark about Ringo's chest, comparing it to a cutting board. Annoyed once again, Ringo looked ready to confront her, but Kosaku immediately stepped in and stopped the situation from escalating. Natsumi-sensei then decided to make a strawberry dessert using sweetened condensed milk. She started by washing the strawberries and placing them in a container before pouring the condensed milk over them. Kosaku was not entirely convinced that the dish could really be called a dessert. Once again, Natsumi-sensei teased Ringo about her appearance. Feeling irritated, Ringo commented that she looked much smaller when compared to those with particularly noticeable figures. Hearing that remark, Minori and Kacho felt offended. Kosaku began to think that Natsumi-sensei and Ringo probably needed to settle their differences somehow. Natsumi-sensei admitted that she was jealous. She felt that Ringo should not be overly confident just because she was still young. She also revealed that she had once been the most popular idol-like figure at the school before Ringo arrived. Natsumi-sensei suddenly became extremely competitive and declared that she would turn Ringo into the theme of her next dish. Both Natsumi-sensei and Ringo looked as though they were preparing for a showdown, while Kosaku could do little more than watch. At that moment, Kei suggested that any disagreement in the kitchen should be settled with a cooking competition. He appointed Kosaku, Kacho, and Minori as the judges. Ringo prepared miso soup. According to the judges, it seemed like a simple and safe choice. Kacho pointed out that the soup contained little more than tofu. Minori suspected that Ringo had used dark brown miso because the color was unusually deep. However, as soon as the three judges tasted it, they noticed a very unusual flavor. Kozaku felt that the meaty taste was surprisingly strong, and that the miso flavor stood out intensely. The taste was strange enough that he could not identify exactly what he was eating. To him, it felt like an unusual evolution of miso soup, almost like a life experience version of miso soup. Kacho also commented that the soup tasted odd, while Minori described it as slightly sour and somewhat undercooked. Curious, Kozaku asked where Ringo had obtained miso with such a unique flavor profile. Ringo explained that the flavor had come from material taken from the inside of a shoe. The three judges immediately lost their appetite. It turned out that she had extracted flavor from the dark inner sole of a shoe, which was also what gave the soup its deep brown color. Minori could hardly believe it and wondered whether they should even continue the cooking contest. Kacho was equally shocked that Ringo had managed to create such an unsettling dish. Next came Natsumi-sensei's turn. She served nothing but a bowl of rice. Kei asked where the toppings were. In an attempt to create a dramatic presentation, Natsumi-sensei revealed that the toppings were part of an elaborate visual gimmick. The students reacted with loud surprise. Kozaku pointed out that it looked more messy than impressive. He could not understand how Natsume-sensei had become a teacher while behaving that way, nor why nobody had ever dismissed her. It turned out that Natsumi-sensei's father was a local politician. Natsumi-sensei then encouraged the male students to help remove her from the spotlight. To everyone's surprise, they promptly carried her away and sent her outside through the nearest exit. After that, Kozaku and Ringo returned to their studies. Later, Kozaku wrote in his journal that it had been just another ordinary day. That afternoon, Kozaku and his friends headed to the Minotama Rock Festival. Minori asked whether they were really planning to participate. Kozaku seemed uncertain because they had never actually performed together as a band before, but Kacho believed they could succeed if they worked as a team. Kei suggested that if they lacked confidence in their musical abilities, they could rely on his visual presentation skills instead. With enough makeup, he thought they might even be able to disguise themselves as Ringo. Minori immediately imagined what that would look like. The venue itself was quite small, and Kozaku felt that joining the festival might actually be possible. Before long, a performer appeared on stage under the name AKB40. To everyone's surprise, the singer was Natsumi-sensei. The name AKB40 stood for Age Cookie Becky 40, referring to Becky Natsumi at the age of 40. The song she performed was titled Ponytail 40. One day, Kozaku, Kei, Minori, and Ringo were watching television together in the dormitory. They were watching a news report about Ōrai Beach, which was packed with visitors. When Kozaku was a child, he had thought that Ōrai was merely a nickname, a beach that people joked about. He had assumed there must be something fun and exciting there. Ringo mentioned that she had not gone to the beach at all that year. Even more surprising, Minori revealed that she had never been to the beach in her entire life. Their friends were shocked to hear that. Ringo could hardly believe that Minori had never even seen the ocean. Minori explained that there were no beaches in Gifu. Ringo wondered about school field trips, but Kozaku explained that during grade school and middle school, their trips had only taken them to Kyoto and Nara. After hearing that, Ringo suggested that everyone should go to the beach together. She was confident that they could arrange their schedules and find some free time. Minori immediately agreed with the idea. Kozaku could not help imagining Ringo wearing a swimsuit at the beach, and he felt that the trip might be a wonderful opportunity for everyone to create happy memories together. Kei agreed as well. Unfortunately, when the planned day finally arrived, the weather turned out to be terrible because a typhoon was passing through the area. Heavy rain, flooding, thunder, lightning, and falling rocks affected the Minotama region throughout the day. As a result, they had no choice but to cancel their beach trip. Kozaku could not believe how harsh that summer had become, with typhoons and heavy rain appearing almost every night. Minori felt especially disappointed because she had been looking forward to visiting the beach. She did not care that it was raining, reasoning that people got wet at the beach anyway. She still wanted to go. Kozaku tried to convince Minori to give up on the idea, especially since neither trains nor buses were operating. Minori suggested traveling by bicycle instead. Kozaku was amazed by how determined she was. Kei warned her that the strong winds outside could easily sweep someone off balance. Kozaku encouraged Minori to wait for another opportunity, reminding her that they could always go somewhere else later and that she could even choose the destination herself. Suddenly, Toro arrived at the dormitory completely soaked from the rain. He explained that he had come to the school to conduct research, only to discover that no one was there because of the typhoon. The buses and trains had stopped running, the roads were flooded, and the teachers had already gone home. Since he could not return home either, he asked if he could stay at the dormitory temporarily. Ringo became curious about his research. Torao explained that he was working on the relocation of mountain cymbidiums. Cymbidiums were orchid plants that grew in Southeast Asia in dry areas with cool atmospheric conditions. During the summer, they had to be moved to prevent heat damage. The others were confused by what he meant, so Torao clarified that excessive heat could prevent the orchids from growing properly. If that happened, they would lose their value. Kosaku wondered whether Torao genuinely liked flowers. Torao explained that flowers were a very profitable business. Depending on their grade and quality, a single pot could sometimes sell for millions of yen. That day, he had originally planned to load the cymbidiums onto a bus. Kosaku felt that attempting such a task in those conditions required considerable courage. Even in the middle of the storm, Torao seemed more concerned about the greenhouse than the cymbidiums themselves. Kei asked Kosaku whether they should lower the protective covers because flying debris might shatter the glass. When Kosaku looked out the window, he realized that the landscape outside looked almost like an ocean. The moment Minori heard the word ocean, her excitement immediately returned. Kei and Kosaku tried to stop her, but they failed, and Minori rushed outside. She happily played in the rain while the floodwater spread around her. Kosaku warned her that the conditions outside were dangerous, but she paid no attention. She was having too much fun splashing around in the water that resembled a vast sea. The large waves created by the storm only added to her excitement. Kosaku continued urging Minori to come back because he was worried about lightning strikes. Unfortunately, she remained unconcerned and seemed to find the storm strangely enjoyable. Eventually, Kosaku went outside to bring her back to the dormitory. However, he soon found himself joining her and playing in the water as well. Before long, Kei and Ringo joined them too. Both Ringo and Minori were delighted as they enjoyed the rain and floodwater together. At one point, Kosaku found himself captivated by the swimsuit Ringo was wearing. He wondered whether it was all right for both Minori and Ringo to be covered in mud. Although the situation looked unusual, everyone ignored it and focused on having fun. They decided to play volleyball, but the ball was quickly carried away by the powerful winds of the typhoon. The volleyball game ended almost immediately, yet everyone remained cheerful. Minori then asked Kei to bring a watermelon so they could play a watermelon splitting game. Unfortunately, that activity ended just as quickly when the watermelon Kei brought was blown away by the wind. Next, Kei suggested having a barbecue. Sadly, the strong winds made it impossible to keep the fire lit. After gathering additional fuel, they finally managed to start a flame, but it quickly consumed the barbecue setup. Minori jokingly treated the situation as if it were a bonfire instead. After that, the group danced together around the large fire. Ringo felt that despite everything, that summer was turning out to be surprisingly enjoyable. Kosaku turned the music up loud and the four friends danced together happily, making the most of an unforgettable day. Not long afterward, Kacho scolded them because the loud music was frightening the cows. Instead, they invited Kacho to join them. They removed the outer layer of Kacho's clothing and joked that they were spending time at the beach. Minori was surprised to see that Kacho was already wearing what looked like swimwear. Kosaku commented that a white bikini would have been the best choice. Kacho quickly clarified that what she was wearing was not a swimsuit, but her undergarments. She could not understand why the four of them were dancing together in the middle of a storm. Suddenly, two people approached them and said that such inappropriate behavior should not take place at a sacred beach and that they could not allow it. They turned out to be members of the beach volleyball club. Ringo found it strange because there was no beach anywhere nearby, comparing it to playing ice hockey in a hot southern region. Kosaku asked what they wanted while still joking around with the group. The newcomers made it clear that they had not come to stop that. They introduced themselves. One of them was the captain, Hamaoka, while the other was Ken. Kosaku refused to admit that he actually knew Ken, the talented confectionery specialist from the food technology division of the biotechnology department, particularly in Western-style sweets. Hamaoka and Ken wanted to challenge Kosaku and the others. They were preparing for an inter-school tournament and wanted as much match experience as possible beforehand. Kosaku asked where the competition would be held. They answered that it would take place in Nagano. Kosaku was surprised since there was no beach there and it was relatively close by.